What is up, my fellow champions of the realm? Today's guide is going to be about drafting, and I'm going to teach you how. Alrighty, so the first thing is, what is the draft phase? The draft phase is basically a game within a game. The reason for this is you will have to be able to create a good team composition that will allow your teams to have an easier time winning. So if you win the draft phase, it will make the game easier for your team. What affects how you draft? There are two major things that will affect how you should be drafting, and one minor. The two major things are going to be meta and map, knowing what champions are super good or broken, as well as what is good on that particular map that you are drafting for. Will give you a better sense of direction when it comes to picks and bans. The minor thing is going to be players, right? If you are playing ranked, you won't really know who's on the other side, unless you're stream sniping. So don't be stream sniping. But in a 5v5 custom, you will know who's on the other side. So you have a better understanding of their champ pool and what kind of comps they are more likely to run. So what is the difference between first and second pick? So first pick will always have more initial control over the draft since they will get the first champion. But with that being said, second pick will be more reactive, but can also outplay the first pick team by playing mind games and forcing pick trades. What is a pick trade? A pick trade is basically when you force the enemy team to make a hard decision on if they really want to take a strong champion and give you two really good champions in return that may counter that strong pick that you've just taken. For example, a team may give you a champion like Rom, but then they immediately take two champions that counter him or make getting value from him very hard. Well, how do I know if my comp is good? So when drafting, to determine what makes a good comp, you have to ask yourself, do your picks synergize? The reason this is so important is because you can pick 5 really good champs, but if they don't work well together and they don't cover each other's weaknesses, the comp will be more prone to failure. What are some comps that you can draft and run? So the most common comps that you will see run are 2 tanks, 2 damage, and 1 support. Keep in mind that flanks are considered damage. 1 tank, 3 damage, and 1 support, and then 3 tanks, 1 damage, and 1 support. There are other comps that can be run, but these are the most proven as well as the most common. So now with this basic info out of the way, let's give you a draft example. We will be first pick, and it will be Brightmarsh. Hope you guys enjoy this little process. Alrighty, so we are drafting for Brightmarsh. We are first pick. So when you were first pick, you got to understand what's good on the map, right? And what champions are good. Obviously, there ain't nobody drafting against me, so I don't know their champ pool and what they like to run. So drafting against myself will be an interesting idea, right? So first off, let's start off with what is strong on Brightmarsh. So Brightmarsh is more known for teams running 2 tanks. The reasoning for this is because this map is very tight-knit and relies on a lot of map control. There's not a lot of flank routes, and there's not a lot of gimmicky things you can do. So having 2 tanks makes it a lot easier to control space, as well as take or deny space from the enemy team. So with that being said, tanks will be the main focus of our draft. We want to have a good tank line. We want to make sure that we have 2 tanks. We don't want to have 1. Okay, now with that out of the way, what is very strong? So we are going to be drafting with Yago because she's busted and she will be in the meta soon. So I don't want to make this video and then she come out and people don't really know what's going on. So let's say you were first pick, right? So you know that you want strong tanks. What are some really strong tanks right now? I think the best tank by far in the game right now is Yago. I think Rom's pretty high up there. The reasoning for Rom, people may disagree, is but when you have a Rom pick, the enemy team has to pick counters. It's not like a Khan or an Atlas where you can get by if you don't have direct counters. If you don't have a direct counter for Rom, he is going to run through your team. He is going to cause so much havoc, and he's going to waste so much of your time that even if he's not doing well, he's pulling so much resources and so much attention that I feel like he's a very busted champion. So these will probably be the biggest prio for you. Some close seconds I would probably say would probably be Khan, or let's say I feel like Atlas and Koa are pretty even. So maybe Barrack, right? So these 4 tanks, these are probably the first picks that you want to be looking for, tank wise. And yeah, and let's say all 4 of these tanks get banned, you would probably look for, you would probably still grab a tank early, but you could also grab some DPS. So let's say from rating it from top to bottom, this would probably be the prio of things that we want to try to get. Right here will probably be the order of things you want to get. I know people probably see Barrack a little higher, but I don't feel that way. I feel like Barrack's a very good all-around pick, but I just think that Barrack doesn't really have like a winning matchup over other tanks. I just think he does really well in the main lane. He doesn't really counter the tanks, and he doesn't really punish any tanks, right? So unlike Khan, who was very punishing to a lot of tanks. So for first pick, we want Yago, and we don't want to give up Rom at the same time. But we know that they'll probably ban Yago. They might ban Rom as well, so we don't really have to worry about that so much. Knowing that they'll probably ban Yago, we should be a little bit more focused on getting these 3 champions. Probably more specifically the Khan. So if we are going to get the Khan, what do we want to take away from them? First pick could always do a throwaway ban as well, depending on what you like. And what is a throwaway ban? A throwaway ban is something that you just don't like playing against, or you just don't care and you just don't want it on the board, so you just get it out of there. A good throwaway ban could literally be anything. Typically, I like to throw away stronger picks when it comes to DPS, because as a tank player, I don't like playing against things like Shaolin because they counteract my DPS, as well as I don't like playing against things like Xin, because who wants to have their HP bar shredded by an ability that is very easy to hit, right? So let's say we just ban Xin for funsies, right? Enemy team will ban Yago because Yago is muy broken, right? So now the enemy team has to make a decision where they're either giving us Rom and they're getting 2 strong picks, or they're not, right? So with that being said, let's say that we don't ban Rom, right? And we end up getting the Rom first and they don't ban these 2 champions. If we get Rom and they get Barrack Khan, that is very good into Rom, not only because those champions, Khan is a soft counter into Rom, as well as Barrack is very good into Rom as well. So if we are looking for the Rom pick, a Barrack ban could be good because of the fact that it is annoying to play into a Barrack as a Rom. Now with that being said, Rom is a very strong pick, and I do see a lot of teams probably banning him if certain things are off the board. So let's say smart team playing against you, they ban Rom, right? So now you get Khan, right? You get Khan, and they give you Khan, but they're not losing much, right? They technically could run Torvald if they really felt like it. I feel like Torvald's not really that strong right now, but he's still viable. But let's say this is ranked, so most people don't run Torvald in ranked. So you get the Khan, right? So now the enemy team is going to try to counterpick that. They want to get picks that are strong into Khan and don't get countered, right? So my first thought would be that I want to prioritize getting a decent main tank, which would probably be Inara, or you could prioritize getting a strong off tank like Koa, which will open up the Term or the Inara, so you have more flexibility with your main tank. But seeing that it's Brightmarsh, Inara is a very fantastic pick, so you shouldn't be afraid to take Inara, right? So let's say you take the Inara, right? You want to get that strong main tank pick out of the way because you don't want to get stuck with tanks that can be easily countered by the Khan, for example, Fernando, as well as Term in a sense, but not really. So you want to get the Inara, as well as you probably want to take a strong DPS, or you want to take a strong healer. Depending on who's on your team, a strong healer could be really nice early on, as well as a strong flank could be nice early on. If you're scared that they're going to take a flank, you could always take a flank that counters that flank, right? So a good pick, a good support pick could be really nice. So taking a Grover early on is never a bad thing. So yeah, but also keep in mind if you are giving up a pick like Andro, you are leaving up picks like this. So you could want to go with the Andro pick. Knowing how ranked is, it will probably be an Aura Andro for the first rotation, just because not only does the Andro give you access to these picks, but it takes away from the enemy team, as well as Andro is a pretty decent counter to con, right? So now they take con, you take these two picks here. Now he's going to think about, what do I want next, right? He doesn't really need to focus on a main tank because you have a main tank, and he doesn't really need to hard focus on getting a flank here. So the smartest thing that they will probably do is they will probably 100% grab a support. What support do they want, right? What support's going to synergize with their tanks and work well with their DPS depending on what they want, right? As well as do they want to take a DPS now, right? Or do they want to take a tank now? So let's say they take Grover. Grover's really good on Brightmarsh. It's good in general, really good at setting up kills. And then from here they can grab a tank, which would probably be a really good option for them. They could grab the Term or the Nando. I feel like since they have the Andro, you might want to lean a little more towards the Nando, because you'll be able. That's another ult that you can counter out these ults, as well as when you're ulting, there's not a counter to it compared to Term, where if you're ulting, he can send your ult back at you, right? So you take the Nando, and now you are forced to take. Actually, no, you get the two picks here, so now it's back to them, right? So now they see your comp. You have two really good shields, right? So now they need to start thinking, what can I take that is good into their tanks, but will also be good into some DPS. The first thing that they'll probably have in mind is they'll probably take a support here. Seeing that they'll most likely run two tanks, they'll need a support that can sustain two tanks. So they could go. They already have some type of CC, so Damba's good, but they could also go Ying. Ying's never a bad pick. So but they could also go Corvus as well, depending on what they get for their tanks. So let's say they go. Let's see. They could go, depending on if they want to hide their DPS pick, which they most likely do, because they know that they want two tanks. They'll probably take the tank and support here. Looking at what you guys got so far, what we have so far, they could be looking for a Ruckus or a Koa. Those would be two very good options. The safest pick would probably be the Makoa. Alice is a good pick as well, but having a shield that takes Wrecker is always pretty nice. You can also go the Torvald to pocket the Andro as well, so that is a thing that can occur as well. But it's kind of unlikely because if they do that, you could just go Shaolin or something like Cassie, since Wrecker is since the shields aren't as strong as they used to be. Let's say they go with the Makoa and a support here. With this tank lineup so far, it will probably end up being a Damba. Damba is really good with these tanks, giving them speed, but not also speed, but a ton of healing, right? So this would be a possible route they can go. Now you see what they have. You want to have a counter to big bursty tanks, as well as flanks here, right? And you might want a flank of your own possibly. So a good counter to those tanks and a really safe pick could be Cassie. Cassie is a phenomenal pick, and is basically like a pseudo hit scan since her projectiles are so fast. And then you might want to have a flank into that, or if you don't want a flank, you can run double damage. Let's see here. When you're looking at the flank category here, what could be good into those tanks? Honestly, a Koga could be pretty good into what they have. It'll be a hit scan as well. And behind the con, Koga does pretty well. But you could also go a blaster here. If you do go a blaster and they end up going a blaster, you will maybe have a little harder time dealing with that. So that might not be the best option. But let's see. It'll definitely be a damage pick here. What could it be? Well, honestly, there's a lot of options, right? That you could go with. So whatever I pick here, there could always be like a counter pick to this. So it's really hard because at the end of the day, you never know what's going to get picked. But some good options could be blasters. It could be another damage like a Tiberius. Tiberius has good poke. Also has a little bit of diving potential and things like that. But let's just say for the sake of this, you want to take a counter to the Andro, so you go a Buck, right? Buck can sustain itself while also dueling out the Andro. And yeah, Cassie will be good into both the tanks. So yeah, and then here, if you look for a damage here, you can honestly go, this would be super safe. You could go other things like Drogos or Willow. But honestly, the drafts can turn out in so many different possibilities that I really can't give you the perfect scenario here. But with this being said, I believe both teams have pretty good comps. At the end of the day, it will come down to who plays better in game. If this is the scenario, if everybody on your team has the perfect champ pool, and y'all can just pull out whatever you want, right? So, with that being said, I really do hope you guys learned about drafting today. If you enjoy this content, make sure you drop a like and subscribe so you can keep up with the channel and never miss a guide. It's your boy Apache, letting you know to take care and have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.